So one of the plagues of the Milwaukee Bucks for the last couple seasons is that while Giannis was amazing, the coaching was not the best. But now Mike Budenholzer is there, and if we remember his time with the Atlanta Hawks, that team played beautiful basketball. There was spacing and movement and handoff plays and making the extra pass, and it was just a great thing to watch before they ran into LeBron James in the postseason. I had to get an Al Horford post up in here, of course. And I think all the stuff that we saw with the Hawks are beginning to translate to the Bucks in their own way. I mean, we don't expect them to play the exact same, but the thing that I noticed right away is how Coach Bud is using Giannis as just a Swiss Army knife where he really can do whatever you want him to do, and there are a lot of plays where he's off the ball in some capacity, and it ends up with him getting a basket at the rim. So he could be setting a screen and rolling to the rim. Bud could have him posting up. Giannis's cuts are actually up this year. He's averaging about 3.5 cuts a game, whereas last season it was around 2. Sometimes he'll just be sitting at the rim and you just throw it up there in his general vicinity and he's going to catch it. Whatever it may be, Giannis may be the one dude in the league where you can actually say, hey, stand right there, we're going to throw you the ball, and no one can do anything about it. Maybe Anthony Davis is like the one other guy for that. But that's the first thing I notice, is that Giannis will just be like setting a screen, doing something off ball, and then he just jets right to the rim, and it's kind of unstoppable. So expect more of this. I should probably say why it's so unstoppable. I mean, I'm sure you know this, but it's because the spacing is so good for this Bucks team now. One of the problems they had for the past few seasons was you'd see Giannis just gearing up to go to the basket, and then there would just be so many guys at the rim, right? Some of it was because the centers that they've had for the past few seasons have not been that talented, but they've also just not had a lot of shooting from their bigs in general. And I'm going to talk about the personnel changes they made, but we just got to point out how impactful this is, because just try to defend Giannis when you don't have any help defense. You can't do it. It's actually impossible. There is not a single defender in the NBA who can consistently stay with this guy one-on-one, defend him in the post, defend him when he starts doing those weird back downs where he ends up dunking on like 4 players because his arms are longer than most human beings' entire bodies. It's just great stuff. It's great to watch a superstar finally being used correctly and being put in the right positions. Now, as far as how his coach Bud is able to do this, it was through 2 acquisitions. The first one was Ersan Ilyasova, which I don't like the length because it's going to be at minimum 2 years. It could end up being 3 years, which could mess up their cap a little bit in the future, but his impact right now has been big. The other one is Brook Lopez, who has been amazing for this team. Brook has been creeping up as a three-point shooter the last couple of years, and this season it's all coming out. The dude is shooting, 5 or 6 three-pointers a game for this team, and he's making over 41% of them. Brook Lopez has officially become a shooting guard in a center's body. And what Coach Bud will do is he'll just have Brook spot up. He'll put him in the corner, he'll put him at the top of the key, wherever. And if there's no center just sitting around the rim to get in Giannis's way, the opposing center can't help, and then that messes up your defense, and then you've got to have different matchups where you might have like a quicker guy defending the center for the sake of help defense. It just creates a total mess for the opposing team, having these knockdown shooters around Giannis. But the beauty of Brook Lopez is he's still a really smart player overall, so he can still make plays around the rim. So he's just a really valuable, versatile offensive player. And to think that the Bucks got him for $3 or $4 million a year or whatever, I mean, if I was them, I would think very hard about keeping him long term. I know he's hitting 30 now and he's had some injury issues, but the dude's good and he's helping him out. And speaking of offensive players, we got to talk about Khris Middleton. As a Celtics fan, I had to sit through his round 1 performance where the dude shot 60% from the field, and I thought that him and Giannis were alone going to beat my team. And it seems to be carrying over to this season. I mean, I don't expect him to finish this year shooting 57% from outside. That is a little ridiculous. And you can say that this Bucks team as a whole has been a little too hot from three to where you know they're going to fall back down to earth. But even so, Khris Middleton is just getting better as a player every season. He's 27 years old. You'd think that he was at his ceiling at this point. I don't think so. I mean, his isolation abilities are getting better. His handle has improved season after season. He's way more confident in his step back and his contested shots. And he's benefiting a lot from this spacing as well because, well, it's pretty obvious. The more spacing you have, the more the defense has to scramble. Somebody's going to get open. But I think Middleton has also been able to get more switches this year, which is another product of Coach Bud because, of course, Budenholzer is going to attack the weakest defender, and Middleton has proven to be a good enough isolation player to go at average defenders, so it's working out great for him. We do have to move on to the defense. I know this team's offense has gotten a lot of attention, as they should, but they are one of the better defensive teams in the league so far. Some of this is because of Giannis, who is probably going to be up for a Defensive Player of the Year consideration this year. The dude became one of the better defenders probably like maybe 2 seasons ago, and we all realized it last year for a lot of the same things he does on offense because he can just do whatever the hell he wants, right? He can stay in front of guys because who the hell is going to beat him off the dribble? He can come out of nowhere to block shots. He can defend the low post. He can be a rim protector for you. He's also averaging like 16 rebounds a game, which I think matters. But the other thing with this Bucks team, and I think we saw this with the Hawks and we're seeing it now, is Coach Bud's philosophy defensively is to swarm ball handlers and overwhelm them to the point where they can't pass it out to shooters, and that can be tough to do, but when you have an athletic, long team like this, it seems to be working out. So this Bucks team is really damn good. They are finally doing things the right way, which was something that we were asking a Giannis coach team to do for so long, and it seems to finally be happening. So, I mean, where does Giannis rank right now? He's the 6th best player in the league, something around there. That's the ballpark, right? With good spacing, good teammates, and a coach that knows what he's doing, the result is pretty frightening, and they're only going to keep getting better.